Yeah. Hey lovelies, Serena here. I wanted to make a video about forgiveness, because the other day, and actually a couple of days ago, I shared a post, a quotation, I think from Jeff Brown, I'm not sure, but it was about forgiveness. And a pretty nice conversation happened after that in the comments section. And I also got triggered in a way, like I got angry on the guy who was commenting, because I felt like he was pushing the idea, or he was holding on to the idea of it was he literally said that I think that you cannot be completely healed, and you cannot reach complete healing without forgiveness, something like this, and I got angry because, of course, I got angry on the idea of forgiveness, because my conditioning was for a very long time to repress my anger and hurt and fear, etc., with the idea of forgiveness or wanting to forgive, and not just this, but different programming through forgiveness that led to avoidance, bypassing, and repressing myself, like, greatly, really. And I also got angry a little bit because I can see with myself what I just said, that I abused myself a little bit through that, like betraying myself through the idea of forgiveness. And so it was quite damaging for me, And I can also see, working with many people, how damaging it is, like avoiding the pain, the trauma, not going into feeling into the pain or whatever there is, like trauma or repression, and just further repressing and avoiding themselves through the idea of forgiving or making it okay or something like this. It's really damaging. It can be really damaging. And it can create also more anxiety in people, especially with this religious conditioning and stuff, So yeah, I want to talk about my experience, because I'm gonna guide a very short inquiry at the end of the video to help you to see, if you want. If you don't want, you don't have to do it. Maybe you are not interested. I just want to give the opportunity for you to see if you have subconscious programming or repression that makes you to hold on to the idea of forgiving. If you avoid or bypass through the idea of forgiving or wanting to forgive, So this simple inquiry can show you this, if you want to. If you don't want, then you don't have to do it. So I actually wrote a list, quite a long list, about my conditioning around forgiveness. Like, I have to forgive too. And there is a quite long list. And after a while, I just stopped writing the list, because I realized that it was like strong programming, It's actually, this list is just my programming that was happening through the forgiving, through wanting to forgive, And all this is about, I'm going to read you shortly, all this is about bypassing and avoidance. Yeah. So something else was in my mind too. Actually, there is a lot in my mind about that. It's such a rich topic, avoidance and bypassing, it's a very rich topic. Yeah, let's see the list. Let's see what comes. First point, I have to forgive to feel better. And I actually felt better, when I went with the feeling, intention, and idea of forgiving. Like, yeah, I forgive that people, I forgive to my abusers, And forgiving mostly for me was about my past abusers in the childhood. I don't go into details. Most of you know my story. That's really not a nice story. Not soft and fluffy at all. like hardcore abuse was going on for a very long time in my childhood and other stuffs. So when I went with the energy of the forgiveness and the act and intention of forgiveness, I actually felt uplifted, reading the book of radical forgiveness and stuff, other things, Jesus, and Jesus I've been connected deeply with Jesus in my entire life. I just like his being, and I like his approach. I just like him. But his teaching for me just doesn't make sense in this age, in this era in which we live now, It doesn't really make sense. And I know, it's just me. I know, and I can see that he even had the power to do miracles in that age, because this is what people needed at that time, to open their mind to possibilities and to starting to come out of something, like their mind needed this, to see this, that it's possible or something. They needed a guide or something. So, and the way he overcame suffering, it was just amazing. Yeah. So I like it. I like it. It's not that I don't like it. And his teaching is good, but it couldn't help me, It couldn't help me in processing trauma and going to my emotional repression and unconscious programming. This is what I have with my traumas. I don't think he could approach my CPTSD and have to work with this, and go to the root of my traumas and emotional repression that's been causing the CPTSD since my early childhood. So I don't think Jesus has the pointing to do this, I had to search for 3.5 decades to find KI, Kilo inquiries, somatic processing, to be able to go there, to the root of the issue. Yeah. Thanks to Scott, and thanks for the community, for helping me in this. And yeah. Yeah, so Jesus, Advaita, all the pointings led me there. My former Advaita teacher or master, pointing was, forgive them, they didn't know what they did. They were unconscious. And I just could not do this. Shit, I just could not follow the pointing. So I thought that, oh, there must be something wrong with me or something, Anyway, so radical forgiveness, Jesus, Advaita, and many other stuff, I felt, because the first point, I have to forgive to feel better. And yeah. And I felt uplifted energetically in my body. And just reading the radical forgiveness, I felt like empty for a couple of days, like no person, no story. My understanding was just complete. But after a couple of hours and days, it started to contract back again, So why? So it started to contract back again, the pain started to come up again. I was anxious and bad feelings, heavy feelings, because I was using it to feel better, actually, to avoid and bypass what was really happening there inside of me. I didn't go to the root of the issue. I was just trying to make it okay on the surface, trying to make it okay. I forgive, I feel better, I'm not bad. Second point, I have to forgive to not be bad and to not feel bad, Because if I forgive, I can make it okay. So I'm not bad. Religious conditioning again. And yeah, some other stuff. I have to forgive to heal me and them, So this was a very strong idea. What that guy said in the comment that I cannot heal completely until I fully forgive. And I just couldn't reach that, So I wanted to forgive to heal myself. Next one. I have to forgive to make it good, to make it okay, to neutralize whatever happened, So there was the trauma, there was the abuse happened, and some other heavy experiences And kind of like forgiving, through the forgiving, I wanted to neutralize that experience, meaning avoiding my emotional experience that happened back then that is still repressed, you know? So I wanted to neutralize and make it okay, whatever happened, you know, through the forgiveness. That's also a strong one. And can you imagine, like, it's like part of the personality and behavior, you know? These are very strong programmings. Yeah. I have to forgive, to get over it, to forget it. And yeah, this is programming, but it's also like an automatic reaction in the system on the level of the body mind, that something very bad happens to me, I cannot handle this, you know, I cannot feel, I cannot process, and then I cannot let go of this experience because as a child I just don't have the capacity to do that. Because as a child, you know, something happens, I feel something through that experience. So there is an emotional experience and I feel it, you know, and completely feeling it and going through it, then I can let it go. But if I'm not able to do this as a child, and there are no other persons to help me to process, because this is the circle of processing. So if I'm not able to do this, I repress. And because I repress and I wasn't able to process it, then I later, as an adult, come to the idea of forgiveness. You know what I mean? Because I'm getting it as I'm saying it. Yeah, and it's very natural that something heavy or difficult experience, trauma or abuse or whatever happens, or just a conflict with someone who I love, you know? Something happens and reaction. It happened. I don't know how to process. So what happens automatically that I want to forget it and I want to get over it. I want to continue with my life. I want to be okay. So it's like normal, so to speak. It's like conditioning. So I want to forgive, to get over it and to forget it. Next one. I have to forgive to avoid punishment. Even when I started to record this video, I felt in my belly this fear, you know, that I'm going to get punished, you know? The fear in the belly, you know? Because if I say, you know, because there is also conditioning behind it, you know? If I don't forgive to my parents, for example, and by saying it, I already feel the fear in the belly, you know? If I don't forgive to them, I'll be punished. If I don't say on any level or even just with my energy or behavior that it was okay and the idea of forgiveness can help me with this, then I will be punished again and again and again on the level of the subconscious. If I don't forgive, the punishment or the bad thing will come again and again, something like this. This is also subconscious. And we are on the halfway in this list, you know, and it's just my experience. A lot of conditioning and programming through forgiveness, through the idea of forgiveness, and it's just one. So you can imagine how emotional repression works through the unprocessed traumas. It's crazy, you know, but it's also like amazing to discover this with KI, you know, when, yeah, okay, let's not go there because then it will be a long video. Next one, I have to forgive to be accepted by them and to stay connected with them. You know, it's child's mind again, innocent. I have to stay connected with my parents because my life depends on them. It's back in childhood, very early childhood, you know? It's just our life depends on our parents or caregivers, whoever I lived with, you know? So the inbuilt intention or craving in the system that I have to be accepted by them, I have to, and I want to belong to them, you know, and I have to stay connected with them. And this continues in childhood, you know, because of the unprocessed stuff, you know. And imagine this, that this has been going on almost on the level of instinct, so to speak, you know. it's not the perfect word, but something like this. Like, I have to belong to them. I have to stay connected with them. So I have to forgive whatever they did, you know? Yeah, that is also one. I have to forgive to avoid further hurt or abuse or conflict, whatever your stuff is. It's just mine, hurt and abuse, you know? But whatever conflicts we have in daily lives, in our relationships, so to avoid further hurt, abuse, conflict, I have to forgive. Because if I don't forgive, it's going to happen again, or something like this. Yeah. So I have to make it not to happen again. Not even, but if I do this, I don't even give a chance to the other person to regret, to realize what they've done and that it's not good for me. I cannot even set a boundary and explain to them and expose to them that it's not good for me and I don't want that and this was a mistake. It didn't feel good for me. I don't even, if I forgive prematurely and beforehand, before they can realize what they've done, they don't have a chance to contemplate on that or realize that, or so I deprive them also from the possibility of growing and contemplating and seeing like, oh, maybe this wasn't, you know, this wasn't right, because maybe they were also acting unconsciously, but it doesn't mean that I cannot set a boundary with that or I cannot say that it's not okay. But if I say it, maybe they will realize and they can contemplate on that, see that something. So yeah, I don't have to deprive them from the possibility of healing, because we both are consciousness, you know. So yeah, let's work together on that, you know. I'm a bit of funny today, I'm sorry for that. Yeah, next one. Yeah, also forgiving, like I had a session with someone today, very lovely client and very enthusiastic with KI, and he's one of his biggest fear, and this is why he represses anger mostly, that he is afraid that there is a conflict. He expresses that it's not okay, or setting boundary, or expressing the anger, and the situation or the conflict will just escalate into a situation, and it will stay like this, escalated situation, you know, like some tension is there, you know, and it will not resolve if he expresses his anger or setting a boundary or something. So this is his biggest fear, you know. So it's something similar to that, you know. So avoiding further hurt, abuse, conflict, you know, it will not get resolved if I don't forgive, you know, and make it okay, something like this. Next one, funny one. I have to forgive to heal the family. I literally, actually, really, truly believed that if I heal completely, I will heal the entire fucking intergenerational trauma, abuse that's been happening and spiraling through the generations for a very long time. Now this thought is like, what the fuck? How could I believe that, you know? Like, it doesn't make sense anymore. Again, 2 years of deep somatic inquiry and processing is behind me. So, yeah, again, sorry, it just doesn't make sense for me, you know, anymore. Like, I'm saying it and it sounds like stupid, you know? And don't misunderstand me. Like, I don't try to be sarcastic, because now I have more love. I'm not complete, I'm still in the work, but I have more love and understanding about my family and the generations and just the ancestors and everyone, you know, because I can see it now, I processed, I understand through myself also, and I have more love, compassion and understanding on that. It doesn't mean I have to forgive to my father for what he's done to me, because he didn't even realize that, you know. So, and I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not stuck or something, you know? But just seeing where I am in the process, I'm just getting used to feeling hurt and not denying the hurt or and the pain, you know? Like, not identified with it, but at least like allowing, oh fuck, I didn't know that I was hurt because I just wanted to make it okay, to stay connected, you know? Yeah, and I didn't want to feel the hurt, you know? So I have to make it okay, you know? So just acknowledging and respecting where I am in the process also. But the more I go with this trauma work and the repression work, the more I have understanding on that and compassion with that. Yeah. But I really truly believe that forgiveness is enough, not seeing what's behind it really. Or I saw it only mentally, on the mental level. Next one, I have to forgive to avoid feeling the pain. I've been mentioning this a couple of times since I started recording this video, that trying to forgive, trying to make it okay through forgiveness, it was for me to avoid the hurt, the pain, the trauma, to really go there, to that experience that it happened. That was what I felt. That's where I'm stuck, and I've been repressing it since the trauma happened, since the abuse happened, or whatever, you know. Like, I don't want to go there. I don't want to feel that again. And even finding spiritual excuses like, oh, if I go there, if I feel it, I just re-traumatize myself, or I just strengthen this, then it's never going to end. Like, I have to give power to the light, to light, awareness, and awakening, you know. And but if I go there, I will just recreate it or something. All this bullshit was going on in my mind to avoid actually feeling it, seeing the reality of what happened, and processing it authentically on the human level. Because I didn't have the skills, you know, I didn't have the tool in my hands. So of course I had to create these ideas, you know. I had no other way. But I'm not doing it since I have KI. Why? Yeah, and next one, what I just mentioned. I have to forgive to avoid facing the reality of what happened. That's also a strong one for me. Like, I have to forgive, I have to make it okay to not see the reality of what happened, to not see that that person's real intention, real actual intention, actual feelings towards me, and to not face the reality, my actual reaction towards that person. And because they are my parents, or maybe you have someone important at your workplace, I don't know. I'm just going through my experience that is coming from childhood abuse, you know? So I have to be attached to that person. I have to stay connected with them. So I have to avoid seeing it's all child's mind still. I have to avoid the reality of what's happening, you know? I have to convince myself that it's not happening. So as an adult, I'm still doing it, you know? Like, not seeing the reality of actually what's happening, that people and in me, like the situation. And yeah. So forgiveness seems to be the easier way. Just denying reality, I forgive, doing as if all is good, it didn't happen, or etc. But it doesn't work, it's just repressing it more and more. Next one. I have to forgive to avoid expressing anger so I don't get hurt again. That was a strong one for me too. Yes, of course, when something is incorrect towards me, you know, or something is happening, I become angry. Anger is a very good sign that here I have to set a boundary. Yeah, but if I don't do, yeah, but if the experience is that if you set boundary, if you say no, or you express your anger, which is just energy to say no, you know, then if they hurt you for this, then of course the idea of forgiveness comes in again, that I have to suppress this anger and I have to forgive so I don't get hurt. It was that simple for me. Next one. I have to forgive to avoid expressing that I'm not okay with what happened. I think I already talked about that. Yeah. It's like boundary setting. Last one. There was even more, this is, can you see that this is just a part of deep programming and conditioning that's been happening since the repression that I couldn't see before KI? That's crazy, isn't it? This is just a very small part of it. It's just about the forgiveness conditioning, and you can imagine how much is there if I don't go there, Thanks for KI, compassionate deprogramming process. That's what I've been doing. Yeah, last one. I have to forgive to avoid hurting them. Because if I say no, if I don't forgive, if I say no, and it's not okay between us, to some degree or to some level, they have to realize what they've done. If I say no, or that it's not okay, or if I avoid meeting them, whatever, I'm gonna hurt them. So I don't want to hurt them because then I'm bad, etc. Like an emotional loop, So all what I shared, it's just my experience, my conditioning. Probably you have something different too, I don't know. But I think that's enough just to see, that for me, it was I don't know how to say even that there was forgiveness was only conditioning for me. That's the clearest way to say this. And I tell you why, I explain why. So now you see that before KI, before the Kilo B inquiries, awareness-based somatic processing, body, emotions, sensations, thoughts, before starting KI, I used forgiveness to avoid bypass, and to bypass. I think it's pretty clear now through my example, what I just shared with you, the programming that happened through forgiveness. But it's only conditioning. I could never really forgive, because of the unprocessed trauma and repression. After KI, the idea of forgiveness, and I think it fell away a year ago, something like this. The idea, after a certain amount of processing, the idea of forgiveness just didn't make sense. Literally, it didn't make sense. I tried to recall, even now I'm talking about that, but I can't recall like experientially or even on the level of idea, I can't recall what I wanted to reach through forgiveness or something. It doesn't make sense, Like after a certain amount of processing that I discovered my emotional repression, I went back to my traumas to process it, all the anger, hurt, fear, sadness, and everything that belonged to the traumatic experience. I've been still doing this, I'm in the process. So as I went with the processing, and I went deep into the experience and the emotional experience of that, the trauma that happened, I could see the reality of the other person. So I could see the reality of that person, of that experience, and with the processing, it just emptied out. It became translucent, neutral, and I could, even with the abuser, I could just feel this oneness, that we are one being. But still, nothing could take away my clarity and my clear seeing of the intention of the people or whatever, because the trauma got cleared up in my system, and I wasn't repressing myself anymore. So after that the experience between us became like clear and translucent, the idea of forgiveness just didn't make sense. Like, forgiving what? I processed it. What had to be forgiven, I processed it, So after that, yeah, I don't find better words. It just didn't make sense. That's all. But before, it was just fully conditioned, and to avoid what should I process, what I should have processed, you know? So I just try to avoid that. And yeah, and after processing, the feeling of oneness and neutrality, that the experience became neutral after a lot of processing. The idea of oneness and the feeling of oneness wasn't a bypass anymore. Like, oh, we are one being, everything should be forgiven. Yeah, it's just our unconscious expression. No abuse happened in reality. It's just the dynamics, or you know, all this shit was going on in my mind, and yeah, it just wasn't there anymore after processing, because then it felt like I know my experience. I can set boundary. I can say if it's not okay because I was just seeing the reality. Anyway, too much words. So I just wanted to share my experience, to give an explanation of how it was for me before KI, before doing somatic processing, and how it is now after the somatic processing, that it really doesn't make sense anymore. Whatever has to be forgiven is happening here. That's my experience. Anyway, so I give you a short inquiry for you to see if there is any conditioning on that forgiveness. They are very simple. And so I'm going to give you statements. These are like inquiry statements, so to speak. And the only thing that you have to do is these inquiries is to trigger the body-mind. So you are going to see certain reaction on the level of the body-mind as a sensation, like pulsation, resistance, contraction, or shutdown, that you just can't feel anything, or a thought in the mind like no, or any expression of no, 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 because if you have, if to these inquiries you have any reaction of no on the level of thought, that it's saying something through the words, or on the level of the body that's sending signs of contraction or disagreement, any signs of no reaction in the body, then chances are that you are repressing through the idea of forgiveness and avoiding bypassing. So here it is. Let's just sit for a moment, because I was talking a lot, so let's come back from the words, leave the words and the story, Serena story, whatever, and just notice that you are sitting at home, in your room, in the chair. Feel how it is holding your full weight. Feel the space around the body. Trust this space. It's protecting, supporting you, so you are safe to do this inquiry. Take a couple of deep breaths into the chest, into the belly, bringing presence, awareness into the body. Relax the jaws. Nothing bad is going to happen. And just as if you are observing the body from behind the body, it's easier for you to see the responses that you will get to these inquiries. So just to help to see this, bring up something from the past, a memory that hurt you, that someone hurt you or disrespected you, especially from childhood, mom and dad situation with mom, dad, brother, sister, something that really hurt you, but you didn't say that you got hurt or something. Or just any person with who you have conflict or something. And as you are looking at that person or that scenario, just say, I don't have to forgive this. And just observe any response in the body-mind. If you have any response, then you're repressing and avoiding through the idea of forgiveness. I don't have to forgive this. And just see what the mind says, like, I have to, otherwise the conflict will not be resolved or something, or whatever, I don't know, whatever your mind is saying. Or if you have a strong sensation in the body, then just ask, what does this sensation want to say here? What does it mean about me? Maybe if you are a good feeler, then you just feel into it and you already see the words. And whatever words the sensation says, just look at it. I can't protect myself, so I have to forgive. Or whatever. And you can stop this video, you can pause this video whenever you want to spend some time with it, to have a clear response, to trigger yourself through the image and the reverse inquiry, what I just said, like, I don't have to forgive. I give you another version. It's the opposite, because there can be different conditionings. Maybe it's the opposite that triggers you. Just look at that person or the situation and say, I have to forgive that person. If this is what you believe, that you have to forgive, and you have any reaction in the body-mind, then the possibility, the chance is high that you are repressing through the idea of forgiveness. Another version, look at it and say, and again, you are looking from awareness or presence, so you are before the response happen in the body-mind. So just be aware of what's happening in the body-mind. It's giving the response. It's disagreeing with your belief or idea. Just trust that. Just look at the scenario and say, there is nothing to forgive. It's all forgiven. Just observe the arisings. That's going to be a question, utility inquiry. Don't take it so seriously. Just relax from awareness and just observe what the body-mind is saying, so you can be clear about that. So then you can do something about that, It's like liberating yourself. So, yeah. Just look at the person or the scenario and ask, what do I get out of believing that I have to forgive that person or that what he or she's done to me or something like this? What do I get out of believing that it has to be forgiven? What's the payoff? If I forgive, then I have to forgive too. And you don't have to think about that, just listen. Listen to the body or the mind and it will show to you. Trust this. If I fully believe that I have to or I can forgive this, then what? Just be open to the unconscious to give you the words. Yeah, and there are more inquiries that I could give, but the idea and the goal was only to give you a sign to see if you repress through this idea of forgiveness, And I think that was enough to see this, because I don't want to trigger any shit in anyone that the people just can't handle what will come up. So this is just giving you a subtle, gentle clue through the body mind to acknowledge and see that you are actually using it for bypassing avoidance and to repress, to avoid going to the pain, whatever. Yeah, there are more. You can try them, like, nothing bad is going to happen if I don't forgive that. Or the question form of it, like, what's the worst thing that can happen if I don't forgive that? Write it down. You can write it down because you will forget. Yeah, I don't give you more. I don't want to trigger any shit up for anyone. Yeah, and it's not about forgiveness. For me, it's more about freedom, you know? Like, I didn't want to cling to the idea of forgiveness. I really wanted to heal, you know? I wanted to heal. And it was, how do you say it in English? Anyway, it was stopping me, you know? This was a stopping thought. Before I became conscious of this conditioning, it felt somehow that it's making the way towards something liberation, I don't know. But after seeing the limitation of it, I could see that it's only stopping me, or on the way towards deeper freedom, you know, before I got to know KI, Kilo B inquiries. So I can decide if I want an idea, clinging to an idea, believing that I'm not ready for processing or something, or feeling the pain, or I can choose, maybe it's a more challenging path to do KI and somatic work, like really going there and feeling it. But I tell you that the freedom that comes from it, it's very challenging. It's very challenging in a way, but the power, the freedom, and the gratitude that comes with it, because I can see now life more clearly and I can feel it more. It's undescribable, it really. And I'm getting there. I'm still in the process, but I'm getting there to that point, what that guy said in the comments, and thank you for this. I'm coming to that gratitude that maybe one day, that I can feel it now, that maybe I will be grateful in a strange way to what happened. I still think and feel like no one should go through that hardcore shit what I went through, especially during the first 18 years of my life, that no one, my heart is crying when I see someone, you know, going through really hard shit, you know, and yeah, anyway, I still think no one could go through that. I'm so sad sometimes that this world is like this, that we really have to grow through these hard experiences, and sometimes through that just forgetting that there is a life here, that we can have fun too, because I was completely forgot that. But anyway, the more I process, the more I feel this gratitude that I can process this. And because of that hardship that happened, I have the ability to see people suffering in a way that not everyone can do. And I can see people, for a while I was jealous to people who got enlightened without having like deep suffering or trauma in their life, you know? And now I just don't have this. I'm just so happy for their happiness, whatever. But I'm also grateful that I went through that traumas and I can relate to people in a different way. I can really spot where they are suffering and I can guide them through that, you know? And this is something very precious. Because if I didn't go through that, I can't guide them through the KI, because I'm a facilitator too on repression and trauma work too. I wouldn't be able to do this. And I know that many people, or these people also, they just can't relate to that. They can't even see that. And or even if they can see that, they can't help them through it. Like they can't guide them through that trauma and repression, you know? And so I have because of my experience, I have the eyes to see something that maybe others can't see. So for this, I'm grateful, because I think this hub is just so much needed in this world. You know, it's so traumatizing fucking world, you know. It's also nice and beautiful, but also like fucking traumatizing world we live in, you know. So yeah, I'm just saying it, you know, that I'm coming there to this gratefulness, but I'm still in the process, you know. So sometimes it's just, I get angry, and maybe I will always to see that lot suffering is there. Maybe from time to time I will just get angry or something. I don't know. I'm feeling the pain of that. But I'm happy and grateful that I can relate to traumatized people, highly traumatized people's experiences, and I can help them and guide them through that. I think this help is needed in the world. So if you are also listening, you know, if you're curious, even just a little bit, that then just please know that I'm saying this and I'm sharing this only to encourage you, you know, and I'm sharing my shit here, you know, my trauma or whatever I said to you, not because I like to sit and talk about this on a Friday afternoon, but only to encourage you, you know. This is why I share. That's my only point here. So yeah, that's it. Long video, but I enjoyed it. It felt like you were sitting here with me. So I hope you liked the inquiry. And let me know in the comment sections or send me a private message if you watched this video, if you did the inquiry. I'm extremely curious about that. And then let's continue our conversation. After that, maybe we are on the same page and understanding a little bit each other's view. I will also try to be more patient. I'm sometimes like this, you know? Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.